Hello everyone, it's Jan, the Hedge Mystic. Today I want to share with you an art journal that I created that is a devotional to Mary Magdalene, someone that I work with a great deal in my visual journals and my visual explorations. This is a very small book. It fits in the palm of your hand. It's a very intimate book. I know we often think about art journals as being big and chunky and stuffed with ephemera and all sorts of things, but art journals don't have to be big. They can be small and take on a more intimate, smaller size. So you see on the cover, there's an image of Mary Magdalene, and what I did for this particular project was I purchased a bunch of used art history books that were specifically about Mary Magdalene in art, so that I had lots of really great images of the Magdalene to work with. And you can see that I put her in a bit of a raised frame, and the rest of the book is covered with bits of text from one of those books and then some facsimile medieval manuscripts. I just tore those up randomly and inked the edges and glued them down. And then I used gold paint to gild the edges of the book. So let's take a look inside. Here inside, there's some beautiful Japanese paper that has glitter and stars and a piece of a facsimile again of a medieval manuscript torn, and the edges were distressed. This is one of my favorite images of Mary Magdalene from art history, so she is featured right here in the beginning. There's some botanical transfer images on top, and behind is an entry from a botanical book for the plant salvia, which you may know as sage. And so salvia is an important Latin word, and it has connections to both Mary and Mary Magdalene. So that's why that's there. Turning the page, we see the words Sophia and desire, two words that are part of the Magdalene story. Here is a statue of Wisdom Sophia in front of a small image, a print of an artwork, a painting of Mary Magdalene by a contemporary artist whose name is Janet Mackenzie, whom I have actually met in person, attended one of her shows, and I own a large piece of her work. She does beautiful sacred art. Behind here, there's all kinds of print work from the jelly plate. There's painting. There's a piece here from an alchemical book where you see the separatio, the separation of the light and dark, the spirit and matter. You see the white dove rising and this darker sort of frog-like reptilian figure here. And here, down here, you see some pomegranates and this sleeping figure and a candle in the dark. I often in my work get a sense that Persephone and Mary Magdalene are related in some way. Their stories have correspondences and connections that I like to explore. We turn the page, and this spread is about the legend of Mary Magdalene crossing the Mediterranean from the Holy Land and landing in the south of France. And there's a lot of rich history and legend about the Magdalene in France, in the south of France. And so that part of her story is documented and explored here. And it says, across the sea to the south of France. And so there's a ship's rigging back here and a wave and the map. This piece of art here of the Magdalene and those who accompany her sort of on a raft crossing a golden sea. Here we have just a beautiful Magdalene sort of icon. I've given her a beautiful frame and built this up in layers. And then here is a picture from a book of a much older wall art of Magdalene. It's quite old, and it shows how she was thought of in the very early centuries. And there's a word here that says remember. And I think there is a lot to remember in her story, a lot that's hidden and needs to be recovered. So here we have meditation, and I often do use this book in my personal meditation and devotions. And you see stenciling, and then there's jelly paper printed on the jelly plate. There's collage elements and gold paint, and another picture of Mary Magdalene from art history. And then these are really thick pages, a lot of layers on them. So here we are on the next page. We see I've used a frame again. This painting of Mary Magdalene from history, European history, is of Mary Magdalene preaching. She's at a fence, at a little dais or a podium, and this is a painting of her in an imagined setting preaching, and I thought that was really interesting. And then here, the angel guarding the red city and the red egg with the butterfly. Those are all elements and symbolic elements from the Magdalene story. And the words here say, our quest is great beyond all other. That's an alchemical phrase. Our quest is great beyond all other. Here there's beautiful metallic gilding, different kinds of colored gilding flakes, gold and copper and a bit of blue and silver, and these beautiful renditions of Mary Magdalene, sort of in a dream or a visionary state. And it says, what do you see that is unbelievable? Explore more. And I think that is part of what Mary Magdalene invites us to do, to consider what we see that is unbelievable and to actually explore that more. And here we come to one of my favorite pages in this book. The word is essence, and in the background there is some paper that has music that's Gregorian chant, and the way that is written on the staff and the way the notes are indicated there. So that's a facsimile paper that is meant to be a replica of Gregorian chant. But here you see this Egyptian figure here, which I am not 100% certain is Isis, but she is wearing the throne crown on her head, and that is usually indicative of Isis. And this is Artemis. You see her with her bow and her hunting hound. And then you see here Sibyl or Cybele, one of the very ancient Earth Mother goddesses from the Mediterranean basin with her drum. And then here we see the Magdalene. You know it's her because she's wearing a red cape and she holds the jar of ointment. So that's how we know this isn't Mother Mary, but it is in fact Mary Magdalene. And I see a mythic connection between all of these female figures that are deities or near deities. There's something that connects them all at their essence. And then here we have beautiful angelic stenciling and some gold, diffused gold over the top of that, and a frame to highlight Mary Magdalene here. And whenever you see in Renaissance and medieval European art, you see this is called the deposition from the cross. When the body of Christ is taken off the cross, the male figure is always going to be St. John, and the woman in blue is always going to be Mary, his mother, and the woman in red, generally clasping his feet, is going to be Mary Magdalene. And then here we have another beautiful sort of montage of imagery. We've got this medieval person here playing some kind of a medieval instrument akin perhaps to a fiddle or a violin. There's a tiny little scene here of the women coming to the empty tomb that's echoed here. And here we see the Magdalene in front of these violets, which are sweet and sweetly fragrant, pouring over holy texts and entering into a state of visionary holy remembering. So I just love this. I love the organic plant forms, natural forms that kind of weave their way through these scenes and hold them together. There's something about the earthiness of that, and then the visionary remembering of Mary Magdalene in her inner and private thoughts during her own time of study and prayer and devotion. And then here we have the cosmos and the constellations. So the celestial background, the celestial canopy around us all the time, and the angelic beings that rule the stars and the constellations. And then there's this beautiful, again, a little facsimile from a medieval prayer book. And here we have a bit of a Celtic intertwining of vines and an angel, an angelic being. And here we have a little lamp. And so there's this idea of enlightenment, and how enlightenment comes from the weaving together of the earthly and the heavenly. And that is the book. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that gives you inspiration to choose a theme, a mythic theme, a symbolic theme, a devotional theme, and explore that through imagery, through color, through mark making, through pattern, and perhaps you will create your own devotional book to a figure that inspires you and helps your own soul ascend on the ladder of spiritual enlightenment and attainment.